What is going on, YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day here. And we have the first look at the Navarin here, the newest campaign to come to World of Warships Legends. And let's get right into it. Starting out first with our modifications, we are running a full secondary build there with secondary inspiration in slot 1, propulsion in slot 2, concealment in slot 3 there. And for the particular game we're actually showing, we actually had the legendary secondary modification. However, in this one, we only have the epic, as I kind of switched them out there throughout the stream last night. I wanted to briefly go over the loadout as well, as the Navarin, like other Russian battleships, has a limited number of damage control parties. On top of that, the heal was also changed. I mentioned that the duration increased, but the overall amount of health that you can get back, I think it did decrease, according to certain calculations. But moving on, let's get into the specs/stats here. Survivability is 69,400. Moving on over to your artillery, 12 406mm guns with a 16.7 kilometer firing range and a 35-second reload. However, that is balanced out by a 11 kilometer max range on your secondaries, or 11.2. I think one of my commanders is missing a few points there. But with a full secondary build, you can push these things out pretty far. And with the 130 millimeters and a 9% fire chance, you can get a decent amount of damage. I'm not going to say this ship is the best brawler at the tier, but it is certainly a lot of fun, and I think this was a great selection for a campaign ship. Maneuverability is a little limited there, and your concealment is 13.1. Moving on to her armor profile, and as you can see in this beautiful Halloween port here, it's pretty good. 32mm nose with a little bit of an icebreaker and some chunky yellow and red all around the casemate and belt there. You do not want to show broadside, however, as you do have a rather exposed citadel. You do have a little bit of a turtleback, but the turtleback almost starts at the waterline. So if you just aim a little bit above that, you will, as you can see here, be able to easily access that citadel. Now again, if you maintain angle, this ship is a formidable tanky threat close to caps within that secondary range. Again, the problem is you have to show broadside in order to get your guns on target, so it's going to be a nice little dance of how much DPM do you want with those 406s, which notably are not that accurate, and how much do you want to save your HP for the end of the game. But there's your armor profile, rather chunky overall, just don't show too much of your broadside. And here's your overview: secondary reach, full circle, and hidden. I feel like sometimes Wargaming just throws in those things because some of them make sense and some of them don't. But let's go ahead and review our commander and then get right into the battle. Mikhail Kedrov is, of course, who I thought would probably work best on this, seeing as he has Porcupine and a lot of the other defensive perks. Vicious Circle is his base trait, which actually does help. Your turret traverse is really slow. Not one for Nuisance in the first slot there. Of course, Porcupine for the added secondary range and dispersion. Now, the third slot is just going to be personal preference. I decided to go with Volunteer for the extra 2 damage control charges. Collective Labor gets you 1, and it does not decrease the duration there. And of course, Firefighter is also a great choice, but you're missing out on those extra DCPs there. So whatever you choose in the third slot there is just kind of personal preference, but we went ahead and went with Volunteer there. Now, I decided to also go with Master Mechanic in the fourth slot. You can choose Properly Meticulous. I just don't think it's worth it to get that extra slight percentages towards your secondaries. You don't really get any additional range either. You do get a little bit of reload and dispersion, which actually I might switch to later on, but that's just what we were running for these particular sets of games. Of course, Hipper and Haruna as our inspirations to max out those ranges, as well as Fight Fire with Fire for our legendary skill. But that is a look at the modifications, stats, commander guide, the loadout as well, and a good little overview of the ship. Let's get into the game. But here she is, ladies and gentlemen, the Navarin, or the Navarin, as I've heard a few people say. That just doesn't sound right. But anyway, and this game, of course, was captured from our live stream highlight. But very similar to my thoughts when the ship was announced as the campaign. I think the ship is going to be a lot of fun. The 12 406mm guns certainly hurt, and we get a little bit lucky with a few broadsides in this particular game. Of course, it was update day, though, so we don't really get the teammates to go along with the perfect game for our first look video here. But regardless, over here we are on Trap, and of course we spawn over here at Alpha, and getting out to the flank on, maps with islands is going to be a great position for this ship. We don't really get the complete edge, but you guys will find out here in a moment that anytime you can kind of use island cover to get closer within secondary range is going to be a great strategy to follow. I want to make this little disclaimer here that I do with most ships, but especially secondary ships, as some people just think that, rushing in a German battleship and getting your torpedoes off with your fireworks secondaries going off and getting, 70k damage is influencing the game. And while that may be true in some regard, in most cases, if you do that, you're probably not going to be seeing the best outcome. So finding that perfect time of when to push, when to hold, when to retreat, etc., when to set up your enemies is always going to be the most difficult part of playing these ships. And here is a great example of those guns. Yeah, I didn't lead that shot, overly well, and that Shimanto actually kind of sailed straight in. I thought he was going to turn out. You do have a good little punch from these guns, but they are not really that accurate, especially with the build that we have. Now, if you do spec into them, you will obviously get a little bit more accuracy, but you're losing, the good aspects of this ship, which of course are the secondaries and kind of that chunky armor scheme when angled. And again, here's a good example of not only the guns, but sort of just waiting and reading game flow. Now, we do shoot and we are detected here, but we are full left turn there. So even if that Iowa and Musashi were to shoot at basically the time we returned, as we get a beautiful little 15k hit on that sort of slightly angled Musashi there, we are already turned in, avoiding a good majority of those salvos. And that is when we look back at our AFK Michelangelo. You gotta love AFK players on the most popular day of the month. But anyway, here, we are not in a great kind of team position. Our team is pretty passive over there on the C flank. Our destroyer is getting the C cap, but we have lost the Bravo cap, and we are at a disadvantage on this flank. As you can see, there are 4 ships on this side. So what are we going to do? We're going to try and put our ship close to this island here and avoid a good portion of these HE spamming cruisers. That is when the Shimanto decides to, again, slightly angled to us. However, we're going to aim nice and high as he backs up. And there is a beautiful hit. 6 overpens, though, with 2 penetrations, one of those being a Citadel, for a nice little chunk of 36,000 damage there. On top of that, you can see that we actually did get a few secondaries off and managed, 1,000 and a 600 hit there. So, like I said, if you can catch these ships within these ranges, these secondaries, when they hit, are going to absolutely shred. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to this next part, because this is probably the best position you can find yourself in this ship. We have 2 battleships approaching, the Iowa and the Musashi there. We have a Shimanto, and I believe it's a Seattle out there, sort of within secondary range, and we actually have guns on target on a broadside Michelangelo out there. But you'll notice how we are turning out. We are not coming out flat broadside to the ship. We pop around this corner here, we pop our secondary consumable, while also getting guns on target. I've talked about it so many times before, as we actually rack up a good bit of damage and a fire on that Iowa there, as our Schroeder kind of moves in to be the bait. But anytime you can get your secondaries on one ship, as we get absolutely trolled with the main guns on that broadside Michelangelo there, but anytime you can get your main guns on a different ship with your secondaries going on 1 or 2 others is going to be a win situation for most, if not all, secondary-based ships. You certainly could have made the argument that if we would have pushed with a Schroeder, the outcome would have been a little bit more favorable to him. And you can push bow on in this ship all you want, but as we mentioned at the beginning of this video, 66% of your firepower is located on the rear of your ship. And in order to use it, you will have to give up a decent amount of angle, as opposed to a situation like this where we have the battleships pushing, we are being spammed by 2 HE cruisers out there. We are able to not easily escape, but get out of this situation. Something also to note about this ship is your acceleration and deceleration are not that great. The maneuverability for the ship is not ideal. And that is, what is ideal though, is a Musashi pushing around the corner, flat broadside, giving us 4 Citadels. And yes, as we were just mentioning there, this is the perfect situation for this ship. And with the help of a broadside Musashi, we've now gotten 6 Citadels and about 120,000 damage. So you're not going to be getting broadside Musashis all the time. I know that this is a little bit of a unique scenario, but if you actually look at this engagement, it was a 3-on-4. One of our ships already died, and our other cruiser has managed to work his way over to the other cap. So for essentially having a 3.5-on-1 over here, we still have 3 heals, 4 damage cons, a little less than half of our health, and 130,000 damage. So we are doing just fine. If you can manage to put this ship in the right spot, you are going to be an absolute thorn in the side of the enemy. This ship is still very reliant on your team, and as you're about to find out here, my team, as we mentioned earlier, wanted nothing to do with winning, but they do actually manage to get a good little crossfire on this Iowa here and actually give us the new assisted ribbon. But if you look at our ribbons now and our overall damage, 150 secondary hits, 136,000 damage with, a few citadels there. So a good, beginning to this game overall, and that is when you kind of look at our team on the other flank, and they don't really have great position, considering, like we just mentioned, that it was a 4-on-2 or 4-on-3 to start this match. I don't know how they managed to lose the other flank, but again, avoiding and retreating to the middle will cause that to happen. Speaking of our health and survivability, though, you may have noticed we have ticked into the red. However, we just popped a heal, which is going to get us back up into the yellow, about 27,000 health there. And we do actually have 2 more heals to go. Considering a good portion of the damage done to us was fire damage, we can heal up a good chunk of that. So pay attention and utilize your damage cons and heals appropriately.
Bismarck, dude, thank you for the membership, man. Wyatt, how's it going, dude?
All in all, I actually really enjoy this ship, as we've mentioned. I think it's a good combination of everything while still remaining very balanced. The guns aren't that accurate, and you do notice it at medium to long ranges. However, if you can get in close, as we have shown in this game, you are an absolute force to be reckoned with.
Beautiful. That's how you do it, man. You just lose, you just die, you just lose. Our teammates couldn't find.
Now, that's not to be said that the ship can't be countered. You get in close, you get its broadside, or you do what the Seattle is about to do here and kind of get right on the edge of secondary range, avoiding, angling in between our poor accuracy. And you can abuse this ship, so it's like I said, I think it's a great balance, and I really enjoy this campaign. And out of all of the campaigns of recent memory, this is, to me, one of the better ones. So if you were looking to get back into the game, this would be it. If you're not having fun with the game, skip the campaign. I don't know why this community is so obsessed with telling everyone that they've stopped playing. It's like, okay, just, I mean, I get it, like I stopped playing Call of Duty, but I'm not watching every Call of Duty video telling everyone I'm stopped playing, but I don't know. This community is special, and I love it sometimes. But I'm going to go ahead and speed this one up, as this is kind of the rest of the game here. We do manage a nice little damage total, about 180,000 with, a high caliber there and a few kills, and, of course, the new assist ribbon. But a decent little game overall. Our team just didn't want to show up on update day there, but that's to be expected. So hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what you guys think our final score is going to be compared to our teammates. That's always a fun little game to play here in these videos. But I hope you guys have a good one here. Let me know what you guys think. Have you bought the ship out? Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Are you planning on getting it? If not, leave something silly in the comments down below. It helps that old algorithm there. So hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. I'm out. Peace.
I know. Oh, okay. The black guy will kill there. See if we can. Bro, buddy, you think you're really gonna allow that? Do you really think you're gonna allow that, pal? I'd love to catch this guy. Just his ass with his pants down. Was he? No fucking way he clears that, dude. Fucking Seattle, dude. Right. It's frustrating when, like, someone who just knows, like, he's angling and stuff, but, like, it should never be in a position like that. How, like, like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It should just really, yeah, I guess it. Alright. Go take a hike, pal. Well, boys, then there was one. Hey, what's the break? It's okay, David. It's nothing special. But first game, 183k. You take away, I mean, we did get lucky with the broadside Musashi, but you take away some bad teammates there, and we have the opportunity to maybe push this to 200. Secondary did some decent damage. 43 targeted 7 citadels. This one's Oba. This one is Oba. We got a solo cap. That'd be super clutch. Third traverse is a little abysmal. This is the second around this way. Nah, just might as well get hit. DD. What are the what's the over under on my team score? I'm guessing like 1,800 for me and then 1,000 at the next. You know, it's pretty sad when you can like predict the stupidity to a T, but GG's to this guy, I guess, for Nobody's shooting at him. People are gonna learn. You have to take those ships seriously now. But GG's. That's a fine first game. That's a fine first game, dude.